so you're probably wondering what that was.
What the fuck?
Yeah, pretty weird stuff. But thankfully for you guys, we know exactly what that was. And it's pretty shocking, pretty eye-opening, and definitely something you're going to hear about. So without further ado, my name's Tanner.
My name's Peter.
And this is the Decryption Podcast.
So those things coming out of the planes are mosquitoes. And if you're wondering where they came from, well, look no further than Colombia.
Hi, I'm Scott O'Neill here in Medellin, Colombia today, and I'm at the world's biggest mosquito factory for the World Mosquito Program. We're making in here 30 million mosquitoes a week. Come and have a look. We're doing it for a very serious reason. Cities like Medellin have suffered from diseases like dengue, Zika, chikungunya for decades, but not anymore. We've been able to bring the solution of Wolbachia mosquitoes to this city. When this bacteria called Wolbachia gets introduced into the mosquito, it stops their ability to transmit dengue. We release mosquitoes that have Wolbachia, and then they go and mate, and Wolbachia gets passed into the wild mosquito population. If we're going to control these diseases in all the tropical cities of the world, it's going to require a lot of mosquitoes. The mosquito life cycle starts with the egg, and in this room, we've got a lot of eggs. Each one of these strips, these tiny black dots, are up to 10,000 mosquito eggs. Across all of these strips, about 1.5 million dried eggs waiting to hatch. In this tray, we've got the newly hatched eggs. They're little larvae, so small you can hardly see them. They're going to sit in here for a few days and eat and get bigger until they look like these ones over here. They're starting to turn into pupae. We're wanting to do the next step of sorting the males from the females. We want to do that so we can manipulate the sex ratio in the cages to be more female than male. The bottom ones along here are the boys, and the ones at the top are the girls. They're bigger. From here, they're going into the adult cages. We have adults that we continuously grow in what we call our brood stock. And then over here, we have the mass-produced mosquitoes getting ready to give us the eggs to go out directly into the field. It's crazy how they sound. You might wonder, what do we feed all these mosquitoes here? Well, I can tell you, we've got the good stuff in here. On the top shelf, literally, we've got the blood. They love it. Once the mosquitoes are grown, they're ready to go out into the field.
So clearly they're marketing it as a good thing, as something that we should be wanting and should be happy for, but clearly they aren't highlighting the downside of it all. They're not talking about how it could be terrible and how it could actually make things a lot worse. But I mean, at the same time, we're a society that, thinks everything that glitters is gold. When that is not the case, everything that glitters is not gold. And right now we are literally messing with the genetics of mosquitoes, which mosquitoes are known to carry multiple deadly diseases and viruses, right? That they can pass on to humans, which is ironic because their whole point of manufacturing mosquitoes is to fight that. So somehow they're gonna fight nature, right? Which is made by God, with man-made science. So somehow man-made science is gonna surpass nature. Which, don't get me wrong, like, it's happened before, but then look at history. As in, history repeats itself, and anytime stuff like this happens, just look in history and you'll find the answer. So Tim, tell us a little bit more.
Yeah, I mean, it's up to you guys if you really want to trust the powers that be. If you have seen the Maui videos, you might start to be wondering, should we trust the powers that be? Because there's a lot of sticky situations they've been getting themselves into lately, and it's trickling, but not to them, it's trickling down to us. They're getting us into these sticky situations. And yeah, you're right, genetically modified mosquitoes. The thing is, once they're in the lab, that's controlled. They can control everything that's going on with them. Sure, they can say, yeah, they're going to be healthy, this and that, whatnot. The thing is, once they got into the wild, how do they have any control of what's happening? What if there's a mosquito breed in the wild that is like, it's too powerful for what this mosquito is supposed to combat? Like, you really don't know, like, these mosquitoes.
And then now we're carrying the mosquitoes that we made are now carrying the deadlier viruses, all because we thought we could fuck with nature.
Yup. Something else I find really crazy is I found this video, and this dude's like Russian or something, but he found the mosquito laying on him, and there's literally a number on it, on the back of it. So you know damn well they're getting released into the environment. So here's this clip.
Вот она мошка, короче. Сейчас приближу.
Сейчас открыли уберу.
Вот цифра 36. Прям видно на мошке.
Man, I remember the days when you could go outside, you know, you might get stung by a bee, but the most you got to worry about is being allergic to it, or, you know, like the fucking swelling and all that shit. Like, don't get me wrong, it wasn't that good, it wasn't perfect, but imagine what the fuck my grandchildren are gonna have to go through. They're gonna have to go to the doctor and say, doctor, I got bit by this bee number 356 because as a society, we can't seem to shut this shit down. You know what I mean? We can't seem to see it and not want it because, like I said before, we seem to think that everything that glitters is gold. So we fall for all the bullshit that they put on our table. In reality, like, we should clearly have the common sense to think that, yeah, modifying mosquitoes, like I said, animals that carry deadly viruses and they pass them on to humans, probably wouldn't be the best idea. But at the same time, who am I to say anything? So, Tanner, why don't you tell us what a couple people are saying?
Oh yeah. So there's a huge reason I'm very skeptical that we're being lied to again. Just like Maui, we're being lied to about these mosquitoes. They're saying, oh, don't worry, we're growing them in a lab. They can combat all these deadly diseases going on. Okay, you know what, that's fair. You can go ahead and say that. But the facts are, right now, there's a report. I'm gonna drop this picture for you, okay? Okay, so as you can see, clearly there are deadly diseases going global now. And the photo I just showed you, there's 4 deadly diseases going around. One of them comes from a tick, but 3 of the deadly diseases, with death rates of up to 50%, come from mosquitoes. And this is just starting out of the blue. You know what else has just started out of the blue though? Mosquitoes being released into the environment. And keep in mind, these companies with the mosquitoes literally are funded by Bill Gates. They're actually in America too, believe it or not.
Didn't the first few cases of malaria just come out in Texas?
Oh, yes. Yeah, so, and on top of that, get this, Bill Gates has a malaria vaccine that is about ready, believe it or not. He has a mosquito factory in Florida, in Texas. They've released mosquitoes in Florida and in Texas, and there are people who are now getting malaria for the first time first time in decades in both states, right? And just so coincidentally, Bill Gates, the same guy who owns the mosquito factories, he also, his company BioNTech, has a malaria vaccine that's about ready. What a man, Bill Gates. Thank you.
Funding both sides of the war once again.
Yeah.
They get the disease and they get the cure. Imagine that. So he's the reason you get sick, and then he's the reason you get better. Crazy.
Kind of rings a bell, doesn't it? COVID? Question mark? COVID vaccine? Question mark? Dr. Bill Gates? Really? He's the CEO of Microsoft. He's Dr. Bill Gates now? Seems like money can buy you some titles, right?
Since everyone loves proof, why don't I read these headlines right here for you? So it says right here that on August 20th, 2020, 750 million genetically engineered mosquitoes were approved for release in Florida Keys, first one. And then on the same day of August 20th, 2020, it also says the EPA approved release of genetically engineered mosquitoes in Texas. So now we got Florida and Texas, right? Now let me come up to you guys real quick, because in December 23rd, 2020, BioNTech starts human trials to start malaria vaccine. But then ironically, on June 26, 2023, the first US malaria case was diagnosed in Texas and Florida. So clearly, I just showed you the proof, and you guys can read and you can see it for yourself. This is literally happening. Like, And they're leaving cookie crumbs all over the place. I mean, let's be real. These are billionaires. They don't have to leave these cookie crumbs. It's almost like they want us to see. They want to see how much sheep we are. Like, how bad can we get fucked in the ass, essentially? Because let's be real. I know if I was Bill Gates and if I was doing this shit, I'm not gonna leave a cookie crumb this fucking messy, unless I want to see how stupid we really are.
Yeah, I think what it is, they tell us about major events like this, because if we stay silent, that's our way of giving consent. You know what I mean? Like, they see it as, now it's a twisted mindset, but you gotta think, these people are the most powerful people in the world. They literally own the corporations. They're all affiliated, they're all connected into the higher, like they are the higher up group. So they don't have to care about what we think, what we want. It's what we will actually do. They'll tell us it, but if we're like, if everyone in the United States can agree with each other, we can't agree with each other on anything, but if we could, I think we could all mostly agree these mosquitoes are probably not a great thing. But they're not, if we all think that, they're not gonna care. We're gonna care when we actually do something, when we act out and show them, no, this is unacceptable, this is not gonna happen. Unless we do that, which we're not doing. We haven't done that with anything. That's why all this stuff, that makes no sense. Like, I mean, you can trace it back to COVID in terms of recent things. There's just a bunch of things that they're asking us and telling us we gotta do that makes no sense. There's no logical explanation. Half the times the science isn't even real science. Dr. Bill Gates isn't even a doctor, and he's behind the COVID vaccine. I mean, you guys gotta question Bill Gates. I mean, I know, like I sound like I'm on some rampage, but I mean, we're at the beginning of our videos, and we're going to uncover a lot about Bill Gates, because trust me, I'm not here to give you guys this information, but I have seen a ton of things on Bill Gates. And Bill Gates is not a good human being. It is as simple as that. Bill Gates is the type of human being that deserves to have a life in prison, serve the rest of his life in prison. I mean, I don't even care. I don't even care that I'm saying that. You know, I also say I will never kill myself. So, in case good old Billy Boy B is watching this, I would never kill myself.
I stand on that too, nigga.
Alright, so for this next story we got coming up, I want to give a shout out to Texas Lindsay on Twitter. We took a thread off of what she posted on Twitter, and we're just going to kind of tell you guys what we saw and all the information she provided us with. So you know we had to bring the boy John F. K. out for this part, because this directly ties into JFK. So about 20 years ago, JFK's son, JFK Jr., he actually made a magazine, and it was called George. In this magazine, JFK Jr. interviewed Bill Gates.
So as you guys just saw, the headline for that magazine clearly says Bill Gates talks to John Kennedy about Murdoch, money, and world domination. Which is crazy, because this was in February 1997.
Alright, so at the time of this article, Bill Gates was 41 years old, and he was also the richest man in the world. In this article, JFK Jr. asked Bill Gates about his goals, aspirations, and politics. What Bill Gates said back then is more relevant than ever today.
So, in that same article, Bill Gates also said that he funds population control, and then in 2019, 20 years later, he ironically stated in an interview that he wrote for Wall Street Journal that 20 years ago, he began funding the best investment he's ever made. Ironic.
Alright, so fast forward to today, Bill and Melinda Gates have put over $10 billion in organizations for vaccines and for global funds.
So when he gets asked about where he puts his money, it's clear that he's obsessed with two things for sure: vaccines and mosquitoes.
Malaria has now been detected in Florida and Texas. The people who have been diagnosed with malaria, actually, none of them have traveled outside of the United States. What did Bill Gates fund in Florida and Texas?
So Oxitec was the group responsible for releasing all of the mosquitoes, and they are also funded by Bill Gates, ironically.
In addition to being funded by the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation, Oxitec is also a proud partner of the World Economic Forum.
And just to recap, in 1997, Bill Gates said that he funds population control.
In 2018, Gates funds Oxitec. Oxitec then releases millions and millions and millions and millions of GMO mosquitoes into Florida and Texas.
But now, for the first time in 20 years, malaria returns to the United States, but only in Texas and Florida, ironically.
Don't worry, Bill Gates funded another effort to save the United States, the malaria vaccine.
So now to tie two and two together, you got vaccines and mosquitoes, two of his favorite things, which are now, as we see it, his way to control the population. Isn't that crazy?
Crazy. It is insane. Like, I look back to COVID at the first example of this, where it's you control both sides. Bill Gates also was very heavily behind the funding for the COVID-19 vaccine. COVID-19 was not severe at all. It's not a bad sick. It's not deadly. It's not lethal. Everyone knows that now. It's no different than the flu. I mean, that's just the reality of it. How the news portrayed it, and they were like, "Oh, you have to get the vaccine. You have to." They were said, "It's if you care about other people, you have to get the vaccine. Don't do it for yourself. Do it for others." Like what? Okay, every winter ever since I've been a kid, every single winter we know the flu comes and goes. But what do? We just keep on living life, and if you get the flu, you're gonna be sick. But for elderly people, okay, I get it. But you know that's why elderly people, in usual elderly people, kind of distance in the winter. Like my grandparents, they don't really go out too much in the winter because they know they're more prone to being sick. It's literally no different than COVID. But it kind of shows how they can. And COVID is actually proven to be made in the lab. It kind of shows how you can create the problem, knowing it's going to be the problem. Then once it actually does become the problem, then you have already been working on the cure. So you profit off of making people scared and feel like they need to get this vaccine for protection. Like Bill Gates literally is responsible for releasing all these genetically modified mosquitoes. Like how much more can it tie in together? He only released them in Florida and Texas. Only in Florida and Texas is malaria coming back. And the same guy who's funding those mosquitoes is the same guy who is funding this vaccine. And the vaccine, the mosquitoes were getting released in 2019, 2020, right? This vaccine has been in development for a few years. A few years, it'd have to be about 2019, 2020. So it's almost like even tracing back years ago, like he knew what was going to happen. I mean, it's crazy. And here is the other craziest part.
Create the problem and sell the solution.
Yep. Oh, yeah. How do you think he's so rich? How do you think a lot of these people are so rich? I mean, like I said, he's not a doctor, but how does he get the doctor credentials? I mean, you can literally buy that stuff. I mean, and now he's expanded his wealth even more. I mean, he's buying up all the farmland in America. That itself is a whole different topic. Because that's crazy. In case you didn't know, Bill Gates owns like a quarter of the farmland in America, which if all your french fries from McDonald's come from Bill Gates' farm. So I'm hoping you're starting to realize Bill Gates is not a trustworthy guy, and McDonald's french fries in the United States are literally some of the most toxic things you could put into your body. It is horrible. Like absolutely horrible for your health. I mean, if you do not believe me, go look it up. I mean, there are, like I said, we'll save that for another day. Because you know what? In case you don't want to look it up, I'll get into that later. But something else that I think is really crazy is we have been told for sure, yes, we've released at least 750 million GMO mosquitoes into Florida. And there was an undisclosed number in Texas, but we do know for sure they were released in Texas as well. The thing is, what if I told you I have a video of them also being released in California? What if I also told you I have a video of them being released in Ohio, the southern Ohio? So actually, it's right by Cincinnati, the Ohio River, so it's Kentucky and Ohio, believe it or not. I'm going to play the California clip first, and then I'll play the Ohio/Kentucky clip second. So you can see they're actually releasing them into more areas than they're even telling us. Watch this.
That's fucking weird shit.
So this is pretty much going to wrap up the video. Everything we presented to you guys today is pretty much how we know
Allegedly.
that these have to be mosquitoes. Exactly. So if you guys agree or disagree or have anything to say, feel free to let us know why. And I think that's going to take care of everything we got to get into today. So
Yeah.
thank you guys for watching. My name is Tanner,
I'm Peter.
and this is the Decryption Podcast.
Peace out.